You're gonna wake the baby. What's that? Oh, how old is he? Well, he's 360 weeks. What's that? Oh, how many years? Yeah, that is 30 years. You know what? Why don't you mind your business? Hey there, welcome back to my camera collection. Today we're gonna finally take a look at a Sony VX1000. Maybe a lot of you have been waiting for this video for a long time. I know I certainly have. If you know anything about mini DV camcorders, you know that this is probably one of the most legendary camcorders of all time. And you probably know how expensive these are. So I'm gonna give you the rundown of kind of how I got this camcorder. We'll go over the specs, we'll go over some of the notable features, and then I'll let you guys check out the test footage that I have captured with this. Now, it's no form of professional test footage. I just wanted to test out and make sure that it worked and share the clips that I got. And I love the way that it looks. So let's get into it. And yeah, I know my little skit at the beginning was a little cringy. Yeah, what do people usually say? They don't usually say like how old their baby is by weeks. It's usually months. So I don't know, 360, I think that's months, yeah. For 30 years, I think there's 360 months in 30 years. So yeah, that was wrong. Anyway, so if you've been following the channel for a while, I would say maybe about 5 months ago or so, I bought a Sony VX1000 off of eBay. Someone was selling a English model. It was like under $300. It looked like it was in really good condition. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance on it and just see if it works. I was kind of skeptical, but turns out that it actually worked. The only issue was the rocker zoom wouldn't spring back into the center. So if I went to zoom in, it would just stay zoomed in and it would just keep zooming. And then if I zoomed out and like took my hand off of it, it would just keep going back. So it was like the spring was broken in it or something, or it was just gone. So that was one of the reasons. And then on the bottom, well, I actually have the part. In fact, I have lots of parts here. So I'm gonna keep this to the side here so I can explain myself. So these all actually sit inside of a kind of like a body almost, and this is kind of what it looks like. And there's parts of it that are like external and most of it is internal. So some of the, like the manual focus switch and the ND filter is on the outside here, but the main thing is the tripod mount actually mounts to the bottom, obviously, like right there. The tripod mounts to the bottom here, and you can see that, well, somebody dropped it or something, and the camera ended up, it's been broken on the bottom where the tripod mount is. So if you're looking at this, you're looking at it like this. So you can see like where the threads would be. So that was broken. This whole black plastic piece was broken off the bottom, and you could actually see like the motherboard and everything. So I went online and I found another one of these that was in good condition. It was, you know, an English model, and I was able to replace it on here. So I watched some YouTube videos of people taking apart Sony VX1000s, doing teardowns, and kind of followed the steps. And you'd be surprised how actually simply made this thing is. You can actually take it apart quite easily. I actually got the whole thing completely apart, put it in the new frame, and then put it all back together. And then when I turned it on, it wouldn't do anything. Wouldn't turn on. The only thing that it would do for whatever reason is it would eject the tape. And so I sat there and I messed with it, and I could not figure out what the issue was. I took it back apart and made sure all the ribbon cables and everything were in place, and they were, and it still wouldn't turn on. So I asked some people in my Discord server like what the issue was, and they gave me this idea to cut like a USB cable, because you have a negative and a positive, and pretty much you can touch that to the motor of the, you can plug that into the wall like through like a USB like wall plug-in, like a phone charger, and then you can take that negative and positive and touch the two negative and positive points on the motor that makes the motor go up and down for the tape deck, and it'll actually move it up and down. And depending on if you put the negative on top or bottom, it'll eject the tape or it will retract the tape. So that was really cool. Apparently like that's in like the service manual for the VX1000. So tried that and I was able to like kind of put the camera back together and stuff. And then I left it for like months and then pulled it back apart and tried it again. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna look around on eBay and see if I can find a parts camera. And I'll put like pictures of like what these looked like on screen as well. So I found another one that, man, it was like $220 or $230 for a untested broken one. Like it was clearly broken. The microphone was broken and everything on it. You could see that the tape deck was like busted and stuff. Like here's the handle for the mic and like the mic itself. I wanted to see if it was repairable or anything, but pretty much it was just hanging down like that and broken. So I took it apart and stuff. It may work, it may not, but the way that it sits in there just doesn't sit right. Like it's been hit in some kind of way and it's been broken. So that's that. And then you can see, I kind of took this apart just to kind of see how it comes apart because my tape tray was like stuck open, I think, something like that. I don't really remember, but yeah, this has all been broken. So that's kind of junk. You can see, if it'll not focus on my face, like the plastic here has been broken off. And then this is the tape tray. And if you look at it straight on like that, you can see that it shouldn't bow out like that. That metal piece should be straight. And that was all sticking out and stuff. So like the tape deck like wouldn't even like retract or do anything. Like it was messed up. So that was the second camera. So when I got that camera, I was going to use it for parts to fix my VX1000. And I know I'm ranting and rambling about this, but this is my process that I went through. So yeah, I was going to use the second camera that had the broken mic and the broken tape deck and stuff to fix my first one that I got that had the broken tripod mount and the broken zoom. Well, I got the camera and I was like, all right, let's throw a battery in it and just see if it turns on. What do you know? It turned on. So I was like, okay. I know the tape deck was good on the first one because it would actually take a tape and it would record to it and play it back and stuff. And then the microphone was perfectly fine on it. So I was like, what if I took it apart and I took the good tape deck out of the first VX1000 that wasn't all bent and everything, you know, it was in good working condition, red tapes and everything, and just put it in the camera that now turns on because the first one didn't turn on, but the second one did, and replace the microphone as well. So that's what I did. So I took the tape deck off the first one and put it on the second one, and then took the microphone off the first one and put it on my second one. Put it all back together, and it worked perfectly fine. It has a little bit dirty tape heads, which isn't a huge deal. You know, I can clean it, throw a cleaning tape or whatever in there if I need to, but this is actually the second camera. So the only thing that I replaced was the tape deck and the microphone. So those two are from the first camera that was sitting all inside of this broken thing. So I sat there for like months scratching my head trying to figure out what is the problem, why it won't turn on. Got a second one and just replaced the parts on it because it turned on and it worked perfect. Everything works great on it and I am so happy about it because, you know, if you find a VX1000 that is an English model and it's in working condition, depending on what it all comes with, like you're paying somewhere between like $700 and like $1,000 for it. So I think with all the parts and everything that I ordered and the two cameras, I think I added it up and I paid like $420. I mean, if you really want to like make it cheaper than that, I mean, if you just took because really like the only parts that I actually used was the parts from the two cameras. The separate parts that I ended up buying off of eBay is actually sitting on this VX1000. So this is actually the first VX1000 that I bought. So yeah, you can see that I took the tape deck off of it. The microphone is gone off of the top. It's a little bit cleaner, like the body parts and everything is a little bit cleaner. It's not as scratched or as like smudged looking. So, I mean, maybe someday I'll replace, you know, take those parts and put it on here. But like, then I don't know if it's gonna work again or not. Like, I don't know if this one will work. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I ended up paying way less than I needed to. No, way less than I would have if I bought a working one from eBay and just kept it. And I got repair experience from it, and I got to learn that these cameras are really not that complicated to work on. Like, if you need a new mic and you need to take it from another camera, literally it's 4 screws on the top, and then it pulls off, and you just unhook this ribbon cable right here, and you just wiggle it off until it, unclips, and the microphone's off. They're really like simply built. A lot of things are just screws and ribbon cables. So as long as you're not like rough with the ribbon cables, you can take this thing apart really easy. I mean, I took it apart almost twice to, look at all of the ribbon cables to make sure they were all, connected correctly. So I don't understand why this one won't turn on. I looked online at some old like electronic forums on like troubleshooting like cameras and stuff. And from what it might sound like is the power board might have an issue. So maybe when it was dropped or something, there was something that broke, or maybe when I took it all the way apart before, I might have damaged something, or maybe slightly shifted or something like that. Maybe I flexed the motherboard and it ended up like cracking something. I don't know. But you can hear something in the 3CCD sensor, like up in this area, turn on. Like something moves, but like there's no image that comes into the viewfinder. It doesn't turn on or anything. I don't know what the issue is. So anyway, that's my 10-minute rant of this VX1000 endeavor I went on. So yeah, I mean, like, these are straight up just like all the parts that I have. I got like stuff in there. I got a bunch of screws. I got the microphone, a lens hood. Actually, this lens hood's actually pretty messed up. It's all broken and stuff in there. I got this tape deck, which I assume a lot of the other stuff in the tape deck will work. It's just the like tray's all bent and everything, so it won't go up or down. So like the motor and stuff is probably still good on it. Actually, it is, because I could hear it trying to eject, because I wanted to see if it would, and it wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of screws and stuff in here. Some random like little motherboards and stuff. So yeah, I got a collection of crap now. I'm one of those dudes, I guess now. I just collect junk. So anyway, if you didn't know, the Sony VX1000 is from 1995, and actually I have parts. Well, okay, one of the cameras is from 1996, and then I have other parts that are from 1999. So this camera was made for like 4 years until they came out with the Sony VX2000. There's quite a bit of these out there still, especially because they were made for such a long period of time. The VX1000 and the VX700 are the first mini DV camcorders to come out. Sony was the one that came out with the mini DV format and debuted this and the Sony VX700. And I also have one of those, and I'll probably do a comparison of the video footage of those someday. But for now, let's talk about some specs on this guy. This camera has an 8-speed variable zoom, so you can get nice smooth shots with the 8 different speeds that it has within the range of zooming in and out. It does have a 10 times optical zoom along with a 20 times digital zoom. It has a 5.9 to a 59 millimeter focal length, and that is an aperture of f1.6. It does feature a 1/3 of an inch 3CCD sensor, or 3 CCD sensors, if you want to call them that. I know some people, they kind of get mad at me for calling it a single 3 CCD sensor, because it is 3 different sensors for the primary colors: red, blue, and green. The 3 CCD sensor does create 410,000 pixels, so it's almost a half a megapixel. Now the viewfinder is a 0.7 inch viewfinder, or a 3/4 of an inch viewfinder, and it does create 180,000 pixels. It also has PCM stereo audio, and I do gotta say, I've heard a lot of people talk about the audio quality on the Sony VX1000. It has a specific sound to it that people just really love, and I get it now. It has a crunchy, crispy sound to it that I just love. I think it sounds good, but it it's unique, and I like it. It's kind of, it'd be good for like ASMR, like, not gonna lie. I mean, it's so good that there's a camera company, I think they make like accessories and stuff for cameras. It's a wooden camera, and they actually recreated the VX mic, and man, they sell that thing for like $300. It straight up just looks like you just hack that thing off, and then has like a little cold shoe on the bottom, and you can attach it to like the top of your camera. And apparently it sounds just like an actual VX1000 microphone. I haven't tried one yet. I've hit them up to see if they'd let me do a review on the mic, but never got back to me. And then it just has, you know, a lot of the other Sony camcorder features in it, like your program button on the back. You can choose like your different settings for that. A manual and auto focus, manual and auto white balance, so on and so forth. You can change the microphone audio level on it, so you can kind of have a little bit of professional features on that. And then you also have like digital effects and like picture effects, you know, those cheesy like 90s, early 2000s video effects that Sony's and Canons and stuff had back in the day with these old camcorders and stuff. Mosaic and polarize and negative and, you know, all that kind of cheesy stuff that they put into these cameras. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I'm not a huge fan of it, but yeah, it's in there if you want to use it. And then it does weigh 3 pounds 4 ounces, and I don't know if that's with a battery and a tape in it. That's really all I could find. I think I found the information on videomaker.com. They have a lot of like blogs and stuff about cameras from back in the day. They're blogs from like when these cameras like first came out back in the day. And like you can still find those blogs to this day. So I think that's really cool that they archive like a lot of the stuff that they talked about back then, because you can really kind of go back in time and see what people thought about them, at least like professional people. And then, you know, you can actually get like the specifics and what was like really hyped up and stuff back then. So yeah, generally if you have like any kind of specification questions or anything, you can find a lot of stuff on like B&H Photo or videomaker.com. Those are probably the two best sites that I can find. But those are some of the specs. There's probably a lot more nitty-gritty stuff that I could talk about on it, but this video is already going to be insanely long. You know, you can go online and look up the nitty-gritty specifications if you want to, but I'm going to move on and talk about some of the notable features. Now, I'm not going to go over, you know, every single feature that's on this, but just some of the stuff that I find either unique or useful in a good way, or maybe even in a bad way. Again, we already talked about the microphone on what I think about it, but if you do want to use a different kind of microphone, it does have a external 3.5 millimeter microphone jack here on the side. So you can plug in a different mic if you wish to. Just make sure it's a self-powered one. It does have a cold shoe here up on top if you want to add, you know, another mic or a filming light for like skateboarding or whatever else you want to use. Some kind of a monitor maybe, I don't know. Now I find it really nice that it actually has an ND filter built into it. It has a little switch. It doesn't have a two-stage one or a two-step one. It just has a single one, but it does tell you when you should use it or not. So I think that's really nice that the camera tells you that. Now, the one thing that is really weird about the Sony VX1000 and the 700 is every other camcorder out there, if it's a top loading tape deck, they're usually where like the hand strap would be on this side. But the Sony VX1000 and 700 is on the left side, which I really like because, well, I mean, you don't get a screen, so I guess it makes sense for it to be over there. But it's nice because, have you ever had a camcorder that the hand strap will have like that fake leather that's on it, and then over time it starts to like dry out and deteriorate, and it starts to like flake and dust off and stuff while if you're like holding it and using it? Well, if you're loading a tape in and stuff, that stuff can like get down into like where the tape deck is and like get on like the video heads and stuff and just completely ruin your camera. So it's nice that, you know, the tape deck is on this side rather than this side because of that issue. You know, there's ways to clean it and stuff like that, but the way that the tape loads is kind of funky. I do have a battery in here. It should be charged. So the eject is right here, and you do that, and that pops open. And then it has like a two-step like ejection process on it. So you can load your tape in, and then you actually like take it and you close that. and the tape ends up going down in. And then once the tape lowers down in, then you can take this and close that. But it actually has all of your playback functions here. So if I turn it to playback, you can actually see all of those playback functions there. There's so much going on like on the tape deck, which can make or break if it's a pain in the ass to work on or not. But other than that, we can move back. The power switch is really weird, and the Sony VX1000 is the exact same way. So this little wheel here is your power switch, and you have to push the button in the center to get it to spin. So if you push it in, you can turn it clockwise or counterclockwise to go into record mode or playback mode. So weird spot, but you know, it was a kind of a prototype into what, you know, mini DV cameras were going to turn into in later years. So definitely they steered clear of, you know, the way that this looks, and a lot of professional and prosumer level camcorders still kind of have this look to this day, or even like the Sony VX2000. Another weird thing is the way that the battery loads in. You might be wondering, well, if you have the screen on the back, where does the battery load into? Well, you have this little switch down here that says open, and you flip that and this little door opens up, and the battery actually sits inside right there. Now, a lot of people, they say that it's hard to find batteries for the Sony VX1000, and I should have grabbed one of the ones that's compatible with it. But you might be able to see it. You have those, like those grooves that are right here, right in the center. They look like little triangles. They're on both sides. This camera takes the same exact battery as like a Sony VX2000, 2100, Sony TRV900, you know, the Sony NP-F batteries. But the issue is you have to have the ones that have those grooves on the side so that it ends up going in here. So not just any regular NP-F battery will go in here, except the small ones. You can find the ones that are small like this. This one's a caster one. My question is, I'm not sure. I've heard that, well, somebody left me a comment on one of my Sony MRC1 videos telling me that I shouldn't use these newer NP-F batteries because they can cause your Sony MRC1 to overheat, because the batteries that are compatible with them are like a 7.2 volt and these are a 7.4 volt. So it's only like a 0.2 percentage higher of a volt than the original models. So I don't know if it's technically a bad thing to use these newer batteries because they're slightly more powerful than the older ones. I don't know. If anybody knows any information on that, let me know, because I would like to not ruin this camera. But the camera turns on and everything, and it doesn't really seem like it overheats, but I haven't really used it all that much, and when I did, I was outside in the cold. So, but for now, yeah, if you need batteries for these, because they don't make those weird grooved NP-F batteries anymore, I don't think. So if you need batteries, you can use one of these smaller ones, and they hold a way longer battery life. If that wasn't enough, you also have more controls when you flip open the door here. So to access the menu, you have these buttons here. And the top one is your menu button, and then you have an up and down arrow, and then an execute button. So to get into the menu, you have to open up this door to, you know, change some settings and stuff. And then you also have a digital mode. You can change it to zoom or overlap. And then you can actually switch the steady shot on and off as well. So that's on the inside of the door. So there's a lot crammed into this, which is crazy. They're such unique looking cameras, and the way that they built them and crammed everything together is just wild to me. And then you have your Firewire in port here on the back, which is this right here. I don't really want to pop it open because a lot of the stuff is like rubber and it's dried up over the years, so it can crack and break off just like the one that covers the RCA and S-Video plugins there. The other Sony VX1000 that I was talking about has the rubber cover for it, but I don't really feel like taking it apart and taking this apart to put it together. Anyway, that is kind of the notable features on it. You can find other kinds of like eye cups and stuff like that. Like you can find like the really big ones that kind of like wrap around the side of your face to like block out light better and stuff, which would work better for me because of my big stupid glasses. Oh, well, one other thing that I actually forgot is it actually has 2 record buttons. Now it's not up on top here on the top handle, but is down kind of underneath the handle. You can see it right there, the gray and red one. So that's a record button, and then you obviously have the one that's back here. So yeah, not great for when you film skateboarding, because you kind of have to use two hands instead of just hitting it with your thumb. I mean, you might be able to reach down and kind of hit it with a finger or something, but yeah, have to get a little creative with it. So if you want to run a fisheye, like an Optica style or like a Velege style fisheye, make sure you get a 52 millimeter. So on that note, we'll move on. I'll let you check out some of the test footage. It's nothing insanely spectacular, but I wanted to test it out and make sure that it recorded it okay and the audio and everything worked it fine. So check out the test footage and let me know what you think. Goodness. Just because you guys can walk under it. What? Quit. So I'll let you know what I think a little bit of the footage. The footage is, I mean, it's early. I mean, it's very, very early mini DV footage look to it, because it is the earliest mini DV footage that is out there. But it has a very warm look to it. I know a lot of people like the way that that looks, including me. I like a little bit more warm looking footage rather than cold footage. It's a little bit more pixely. It's not much of a soft look to it. It's more grainy, grungy kind of look to it. But you add like the warmth, color tones into it, and I just really enjoy the way it looks. Maybe a lot of people are like tired of the way that tired of seeing like VX1000 footage, especially in like skateboarding and stuff, but I don't know, it's just such a nostalgic look, and if you can get yourself a VX1000, you just want to film stuff with it. I don't know. It is kind of a pain in the ass to not have a screen, but I mean, the viewfinder works fine. I mean, there's a lot of camcorders out there that only have viewfinders from back in this era or previous. I guess I'll just go over some of the things I don't like, and I don't really know what that is. Well, I can say things I don't like about the VX1000. Why the fuck is it so expensive? Like, this camera was like, what, $2,500 when it first came out, or $3,000 or something, and people are still selling these damn things for like $1,000 because it comes with some batteries and original charger and a fucking big ass, you know, silver case that says 3CCD on it. Why are you selling it for $1,000? Come on. It drives me nuts. You know what other cameras are